This site, Fenwick, is located in Kew, a suburb in Melbourne, situated on the banks of the Yarra River, the Birra Run, which is really evocative of topography and landscape. There's a wonderful relationship between dense forested banks of the river aligned with a really beautiful heritage precinct, a really special pocket of Melbourne's built fabric.
Our client's angle saw a real opportunity here. You have that sense that you're sort of on the edge of a wilderness, even though you're very, very close to the city. And the fact that nothing can be built in front of it allows us to take advantage of these remarkable panoramas. It was really sort of conceived as a building mass that would be broken apart. And there was this notion that the scale would drop down towards the street and read like a two-storey house and then elevate as it travelled down the site with the topography.
And in that breaking up of the total building into these three smaller distinct pavilions is opening up these view lines and view corridors through canopy trees and gardens down over the river, over the north, opening up those wonderful long distance landscape views.
It's kind of interesting when you think about designing these spaces because we don't actually know who the end user of this space is. So for us as a practice, we'll start to think about how humans want to live in the space. Creating a space is a real tactile experience. The spatial planning is paramount, but that sense of warmth, generosity, and materiality was a real focus for us. Art, fashion, history all informs our work. So I'll always start with the material and I'll always start with, a piece of art. I think that's how you create a space that can interlay for multiple users, and I think that's something we did apply here at Fenwick. It's so nice to have a really big gesture within a space. The island bench was always a monolithic form, and that soft radius into the rear panel is really subtle but sophisticated detail and nuance.
The material selection were all authentic materials that have a durability. So this is raw copper, galvanised steel and concrete. All materials that from the day the project's finished will age and mature as the gardens evolve and grow up around them so that they sit in balance with each other.
We have a lot of windows which are facing into the voids which cut between all the pavilions and allow those wonderful views through to the terrain. And those windows are screened by a copper screen which sort of folds around the windows and allows for privacy but light to come in.
For me, I think the hero spaces in this project are the spaces in between facade and surface and gesture as the concrete curves around some of these little in-between moments of the buildings, which allow shadow and texture and sun to pass through the dappled light for the trees as they mature to be cast across the surface.
The building will become an extension of the environment, and we actually wanted the building to sit lightly within the landscape. Obviously, with the borrowed landscape, we wanted to repeat the look of the vegetation that you see beyond those vistas into the actual project itself. And then with the plants slowly enveloping the garden as that relic element that Addition Office were trying to achieve.
There are quite a few elements that will change throughout the year and the seasons. We should see a lot more layers forming in the garden, so we've intentionally planted large groupings of native shrubs, and then you'll get these grasses coming up through that, as well as lower ground covers that should create these incredible layers of different textures and colours.
The only sort of deciduous element we've got is the Boston ivy, which will be climbing up the buildings, which will certainly give us that beautiful change of season where you'll get the greening of the building during summer in the warm times, and then the autumn colour, and then the building will reveal itself further during winter time.
The garden will only continue to get better and better as time goes on, as our plants get more and more established and form habitats and systems that help to support the building.
Having the project completed, it's a real pleasure to go through that journey of arriving on site and feeling that continued connection to country as you see the sun rise and fall across this particular bend in this particular place.